picture a stunt person, right, hanging by one arm from a helicopter skid.
Oh, yeah, totally terrifying.
Right, just seconds away from this massive fiery explosion. But now I want you to wipe that image from your mind and picture, like a school administrator.
Right, a bit of a pivot there.
Yeah, just sitting at a desk, quietly reviewing a field trip risk assessment form.
It really does sound like the punchline to a very strange joke.
It kind of does.
Yeah.
But today we are exploring why these two, seemingly opposite jobs actually rely on the exact same invisible infrastructure of survival. So, welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Our mission today for you, the listener, is to unpack an incredibly fascinating, just totally unexpected document titled What a DSL Can Learn From a Stunt Person.
Which is such a brilliant title.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. How on earth is a school administrator protecting kids similar to a stunt person jumping out of a helicopter? And just to establish our terms right at the top, when we say DSL, we are talking about a designated safeguarding lead, right?
Yeah, exactly. The designated safeguarding lead. This is the individual in a school, or maybe a boarding setting, whose primary overriding responsibility is student safety and child protection.
Which is a huge job.
Oh, it's a massive, multifaceted role. It carries an immense amount of, well, legal and moral weight. And what's fascinating here is how the central premise of this document really zeroes in on the illusion of effortlessness.
The illusion of effortlessness. I like
Yeah. Think about, watching a blockbuster action film. The stunts are meticulously designed by a team of professionals to look entirely spontaneous to you, the viewer.
Right, they're supposed to look chaotic.
Exactly. They're supposed to look incredibly dangerous, completely uncontrolled, and terrifying. But that chaos is entirely manufactured.
It's all fake danger.
Right. What the audience sees is just the final, 3-second burst of adrenaline. What they absolutely do not see is the months of intense rehearsal.
The spreadsheets, the planning.
Oh, the endless planning, the rigorous physical risk assessment, the redundant safety rigging, the contingency planning.
All the boring stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The massive team coordination that actually made that specific shot survivable.
You only see the car flip.
Yeah.
You don't see the giant green crash mat sitting just a few inches outside the camera frame, right?
Right, or the paramedics standing by with their engines running.
So true. We just buy into the magic.
We do. And the core argument our source makes is that real professionalism, whether you're coordinating a high-speed chase on a film set or managing 1,000 teenagers in a secondary school, it lies in the fact that the risk was anticipated.
Anticipated and handled.
Yes. Calculated and mitigated long before the critical moment ever arrived.
Okay, so we've established that this invisible safety net is essential for a movie set. But, the transition from a Hollywood backlot to a middle school hallway is striking.
It's a bit of a leap, yeah.
Because in a film, the audience is sitting passively in a theater, right? Holding a bucket of popcorn.
Totally safe.
But in a school environment, your audience is essentially the living, breathing students walking the halls and, the parents dropping them off every morning.
Right. It's a completely live environment.
So how does this specific illusion of effortlessness translate to a school where the variables are actual kids?
Well, effective safeguarding in a well-run school usually looks deceptively simple to an outside observer.
Meaning it doesn't look like much is happening.
Exactly. When an incident happens, say, a medical emergency in the cafeteria or a sudden behavioral escalation, it's managed calmly. The crisis is contained quietly.
No alarms blaring or people running around.
Right. The systems just seem to work naturally. You walk into the building and it just feels secure. But just like that movie audience marveling at the car chase without noticing the hidden harnesses, the students and parents rarely see the invisible infrastructure keeping them safe.
They don't see the safety nets.
They really don't. They don't see the daily risk assessments. They aren't privy to the early morning staff briefings or the preventative pastoral work.
In pastoral work, that's like the emotional support, right?
Yeah, the day-to-day mentoring, well-being, check-ins with students, or even the complex staff communication systems that are constantly humming in the background.
It totally reminds me of like a high-end restaurant kitchen.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. Because if you're sitting in the dining room, the atmosphere is perfectly curated to feel effortless. There's soft music playing, the waiter glides over to your table.
The lighting is perfect.
Exactly. And you're presented with this perfectly plated, beautiful dish. It feels calm, refined, completely under control.
But the reality behind the scenes is very different.
Very different. If you were to push through those swinging doors into the kitchen an hour earlier, you would find highly structured chaos. There's shouting over the roar of the stoves, timers going off everywhere.
Yes, sizzling pans, people rushing around.
Right. Intense, specialized prep work happening at lightning speed. The diners only see the final product on the porcelain plate, not the deeply engineered high-pressure preparation.
That is spot on. Safe risk is planned risk. It's not about eliminating risk entirely, but anticipating it.
Right, but I have to ask a practical question here. Bit of pushback.
Sure, go ahead.
If the most important safeguarding systems are truly invisible, if parents and students literally cannot see them happening, how do we even know they are actually working?
That's the million-dollar question.
I mean, how do we know the school isn't just getting lucky and nothing bad has happened yet?
Well, that paradox is something the source addresses directly with a concept it calls a professional truth.
Okay, what's that?
It means that calm, safeguarding responses are the result of rigorous work done long before the incident ever takes place. Good safeguarding simply does not rely on luck or a quiet week.
So the quiet is earned.
Exactly. Invisible preparation is the specific mechanism that prevents visible disaster. The way you know those invisible systems are actually functioning is by the absence of chaos when a sudden crisis hits.
Ah, okay. The absence of chaos is the metric.
Right. If a student makes a serious disclosure of abuse, a prepared system absorbs that shock. The right staff members are notified instantly, the appropriate legal channels are contacted, and the student is supported without anyone running down the hallway in a panic.
So the calm response isn't an accident. The calm is literally the mathematical proof that the preparation happened.
Yes, beautifully put. Because if that invisible preparation is absent, the system doesn't just quietly shut down. It violently discovers its own weakness during the crisis itself.
Oh, wow. That's a terrifying thought.
It is. Finding out your communication protocols are broken while a child is in active danger is catastrophic. The system will fail visibly, and it will fail the most vulnerable person in the room.
Okay, so we've established that unseen preparation is the absolute bedrock of safety.
Without a doubt.
But let's bring this into the real world for a second, because we know schools are chronically underfunded, right? And staff are universally short on time.
That's just the reality of education everywhere.
Exactly. So when a school leader is forced to cut corners just to get through the week, what is the first invisible wire to snap? What happens when organizations try to hack the system to save a few hours?
Well, the source is incredibly clear on the danger of those administrative shortcuts. In the professional stunt world, if you rush the preparation phase, the timing fails.
The stunt goes wrong.
Right. The physical coordination breaks down, and serious injury goes from being a statistical possibility to a high probability.
And in a school.
In a safeguarding context, those shortcuts don't look like someone forgetting to buckle a physical harness. They are far more subtle and therefore, far more dangerous.
Because you can't see them as easily.
Exactly. They look like an inadequate handover between staff shifts where a crucial piece of context is just dropped.
Oh, like someone forgot to mention a kid was having a rough day.
Yeah. Or they look like a rushed onboarding and training process for a new teacher because, well, the term is starting tomorrow and they just need bodies in the room. They take the form of poor supervision planning on a field trip, or delaying the documentation of a concerning conversation because the staff member had to rush off to teach math.
So what does this all mean? I want to unpack the mechanism behind that.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to dismiss a rushed onboarding as just like a minor administrative hiccup, right?
It happens all the time.
But let's look at the chain reaction. If a school skips proper induction training to save a few days, that new teacher enters the classroom lacking the situational awareness to spot a subtle change in a student's behavior.
Which is critical.
Right. They might see a student who is suddenly withdrawn or wearing an unwashed uniform for 3 days straight and completely miss the significance.
They just think the kid is tired or disorganized.
Exactly. The mechanism of early detection is broken from day one, not because the teacher doesn't care, but because they literally weren't given the tools to see the warning signs.
And a critical detail the text emphasizes here is that safeguarding fails far more often through exactly that kind of communication breakdown than through a lack of care.
Wow. It's not a lack of empathy, it's a lack of protocol.
Yes. It is vital to separate intent from operational reality. Successful stunt work and successful child protection both depend entirely on shared timing, incredibly clear communication, trust, consistent expectations.
And defined roles. Probably.
Exactly, clearly defined emergency roles. When those break down, the failure is systemic, not emotional.
Think about your own team for a second, right? To the listener, no matter what industry you work in, have you ever skipped a morning briefing or ignored an update email because everyone was just too busy fighting fires?
We've all done it.
We all have. But the source argues that is the exact moment you transition from actively managing a risk to relying on pure, unadulterated luck.
You're just rolling the dice at that point.
And that brings me to a major challenge regarding crisis response. Because the source leans really heavily into systems, protocols, team coordination.
Very structurally focused, yeah.
But in a real terrifying crisis, let's say a major incident happens on a campus in the middle of the night, cultural narratives tell us we need a hero. Right.
Ah, the hero complex.
Yeah. Hollywood conditions us to want that maverick staff member who can step up, throw the bureaucratic rulebook out the window, improvise brilliantly, and save the day. Don't we secretly want that hero?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source actively works to dismantle that myth of the lone hero entirely.
Really? They completely shoot it down.
Completely. Team coordination matters infinitely more than individual heroics.
Why is that?
Consider the mechanism of a team response, right? If one person decides to improvise and go off script, the rest of the team can no longer anticipate their actions.
Oh, that makes sense. They become unpredictable.
Exactly. That means the team cannot support them, and all the contingency plans you build are suddenly useless. Efficiency without preparation creates a massive hidden vulnerability.
Because you're flying blind.
Right. If your school's safety relies on one veteran teacher just knowing what to do instinctively because they've been there for 20 years, your system is incredibly fragile.
Let me guess. What happens if that veteran teacher is out sick the day the crisis hits?
Exactly. The entire structure collapses because the knowledge lived in one person's head, not in the system.
It makes me think of, like, a rogue gear in a complex clock. If one gear suddenly decides to spin twice as fast because it wants to save the day and be the hero, it doesn't make the clock run better.
No, it destroys it.
It literally shreds the teeth off all the surrounding gears and destroys the whole machine.
That visual captures the danger perfectly. Leaders have to protect preparation time to ensure all the gears turn together.
Right.
They must prioritize systems like those clear briefings we mentioned and establishing a universal understanding of action thresholds.
Action thresholds, what exactly are those?
An action threshold is the specific, agreed-upon line that dictates when a situation escalates from just keeping a watchful eye on a student to making a mandatory intervention or report.
So everyone needs to know where that line is.
Everyone has to agree on it. You cannot rely on a lone hero making up the rules as they go. A huge liability.
So the obvious dilemma becomes this. Human nature is hardwired for the fight, flight, or freeze response, right?
Yes, biology takes over.
Exactly. So how do you get regular, everyday staff, math teachers, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, to act flawlessly and collectively during a terrifying moment without freezing up in panic?
The antidote to the freeze response is repetition.
Just drilling it.
Yes. The text highlights a fascinating point about stunt performers. They are not fearless people who somehow lack a biological fear response.
They still get scared.
Of course. They are deeply aware of risk, and they maintain a healthy respect for danger. What allows them to execute a stunt is endless repetition.
So the rehearsal overrides the panic.
Precisely. Rehearsing a scenario over and over again allows them to build mental models. When the high-risk moment arrives, they bypass the human panic response and act on ingrained instinct.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like building muscle memory for the brain.
Yes, exactly like that.
It's like an elite athlete. A professional basketball player isn't doing, complex physics equations about the angle of their elbow when they take a game-winning shot with 1 second on the clock.
They don't have time to think about it.
Right. They've shot that exact ball from that exact spot 10,000 times in an empty gym. Their body knows the protocol.
The training takes over.
But I have a real practical dilemma with applying this to a school.
Okay, what is it?
How do you realistically rehearse something as deeply sensitive, human, and just unpredictable as a student coming to a staff member and disclosing a severe trauma?
It's incredibly delicate.
It is. How do you drill that scenario without the staff member sounding robotic? Or like they're reading off a sterile script when the real heartbreaking conversation actually happens?
That's a very valid concern. But the text clarifies that the goal of these rehearsals is controlled safety, not creating a robotic script.
So they aren't memorizing dialogue.
No, not at all. You aren't forcing staff to memorize the exact words to say during a disclosure. You are rehearsing the internal administrative process. Ah, I see.
Strong safeguarding cultures don't ignore risk or pretend terrible things will never happen. They prepare for them realistically.
So what does that look like for a DSL?
For a designated safeguarding lead, this means leading actual scenario training, running emergency drills for boarding staff, and conducting active role-play conversations for difficult disclosures.
So rehearsing the process actually frees up the cognitive load.
Exactly.
If I know exactly what form needs to be filled out later, and I know exactly who I am required to call, I don't have to spend my mental energy panicking about the bureaucracy.
That is the crucial mechanism right there.
Because I already know the steps.
Right, because the administrative and legal process is deeply embedded through repetition. When the intense pressure of a real disclosure hits, the staff member doesn't freeze in administrative terror.
They can just be present.
Yes, they can be entirely fully present for the child in front of them. They can listen with deep, genuine empathy because they aren't silently freaking out about whether they're breaking a protocol.
Wow, that's profound. It really is. Confidence and safeguarding has to come from structured preparation, never from sheer optimism that you will just, figure it out in the moment.
Rehearsing the protocol so you have the freedom to be human. That is an incredibly powerful takeaway.
It fundamentally changes how you view training.
It really does.
Yeah.
Now, we need to take a step back and look at the limits of our own discussion here.
Yes, we definitely should.
Because we have leaned very heavily into this stunt person metaphor, right? Comparing school kids to exploding cars and highly choreographed movie sets.
Which is helpful, but has its limits.
Right. The source text actually dedicates a specific vital section to where this analogy totally breaks down. It's time for the honest bit.
The source is very careful to draw a hard ethical line here.
What's the line?
Safeguarding is absolutely not entertainment, and students are never to be viewed as managed risks on a spreadsheet.
They aren't props.
Exactly. In a movie, a stunt is a rehearsed performance dealing entirely with controlled physical risk. You are dealing with physics.
Gravity is a constant.
Right. Speed is measurable. You set the stunt up, the car flips, you yell cut, the director checks the footage, and everyone goes home to their families.
But you can't yell cut on a child's trauma.
You really can't.
In a school setting, you aren't just dealing with gravity, you are dealing with psychology. You are dealing with unpredictable family dynamics, hidden emotional wounds, and shifting social pressures.
Exactly. Safeguarding deals with dynamic, unpredictable human reality. It deals with relational and systemic protection.
Which is infinitely more complex than a stunt.
And crucially, real harm in a school or boarding setting carries an emotional, lifelong impact that alters the trajectory of a young person's life.
It doesn't end when the bell rings.
No, it extends far beyond a controlled physical performance on a soundstage. The stakes are permanent.
I really appreciate that reality check from the source material. It strips away the cinematic glamour and acknowledges the incredible crushing weight of responsibility that a DSL carries every single day.
It's a heavy burden.
It really is.
Yeah.
But that makes me wonder about the structural support required for this role.
This raises an important question.
Yeah. If a school environment is so deeply relational, so infinitely unpredictable compared to a highly choreographed movie set where you can measure every variable,
Yeah.
how do school leaders actually build systems robust enough to handle that chaos?
It's daunting.
It seems impossible to plan for every psychological variable 1,000 different students might bring through the front doors.
The text pivots here to what it calls the leadership layer.
The leadership layer.
Yes, which is the foundation that makes everything else possible. The source insists that leaders must become intensely preventative and exercise relentless operational discipline.
Operational discipline.
Right. You are absolutely right that you cannot plan for every specific human variable, but you can build an operational structure that holds firm regardless of what variable is thrown at it.
Okay, so focusing on the container, not just what's inside it.
Precisely. This requires embedding training into the regular, non-negotiable rhythm of the school year. It means demanding reliable procedures and holding people accountable, rather than just suggesting best practices.
You have to build the house while the sun is shining, well before the storm hits.
That's a great way to put it. The leadership layer is fundamentally about creating an institutional culture where preparation is valued, heavily funded, and fiercely protected.
Which isn't always the case, right?
Unfortunately, no. Too often, prep time is viewed by management as an annoying administrative burden that takes staff away from their real work.
Oh, like why are we doing paperwork when we should be teaching?
Exactly. But true leadership understands that beating these systems is the real work.
It's the foundation of everything else.
Yes. It ensures that when a crisis does erupt, the staff are equipped to handle the unpredictable human element because the predictable systemic elements have already been solved.
Let's bring all of these threads together for everyone listening because there's so much to digest here.
It's a lot to take in.
We've explored how what looks effortless to the public is rarely accidental, right? Behind every controlled risk, whether you are watching a Hollywood action sequence or observing a calm, secure school hallway, there are intricate, complex systems that nobody notices until they fail.
The invisible safety nets.
Exactly. We've seen how skipping preparation to save a little bit of time today will always, without fail, increase the danger tomorrow. And we've learned that rehearsing the cold protocols is actually what gives us the freedom to be warm, present, and empathetic when a human being needs us most.
This leads perfectly to the final reflection the source poses, and it is a question I want to direct straight to you, the listener.
Yeah, think about this in your own life.
Take these concepts and apply them to your own workplace. Whether you are listening to this on a commute to a hospital, a corporate office, a construction site, or a classroom, the text challenges you with this. If a serious crisis emerged in your organization tomorrow morning, would your calm response come from genuine embedded preparation? Or would it come from desperately hoping that your most experienced staff members can magically improvise under extreme pressure?
Oof, that's a tough question to answer, honestly.
It is. Furthermore, take a hard look around your organization this week. Which systems in your setting only look stable right now because nothing serious has actually come along to test them yet?
What is only standing upright because the wind hasn't blown?
Exactly.
I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over that builds on everything we've unpacked today.
All right, what is it?
We have spent this entire deep dive talking about the absolute necessity of making these safety nets invisible.
Right, yeah. The illusion of effortlessness.
Exactly. The invisible systems are what make the school environment feel calm, natural, and secure for the audience, the parents, and the students. But consider the flip side of that invisibility.
Okay.
If your safeguarding systems are completely 100% hidden from view, how do you ensure the culture of safety is visible enough that a vulnerable person feels comfortable coming forward in the first place?
Oh, wow. That's a brilliant point.
Right. Is there a tipping point where making those invisible safety nets slightly more visible,
Yeah.
actively showing the students that there are robust structures designed specifically to catch them, actually increases their trust before the crisis ever hits?
It is the ultimate balancing act for any leader, really. Maintaining the comforting illusion of effortlessness while providing the transparent proof of deep structural care.
You want the X-ray machine to clearly show the break so you can fix it, but you also want the patient to know the machine is plugged in, maintained, and ready to help them long before they ever get hurt.
Beautifully said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, keep looking for those invisible safety nets in your own life, and as always, keep digging deeper.